Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the parallel session 2 of the 11th AISOFOLL. My name is Limala Ratni and I will be your moderator for this session. First of all, I would like to extend a very welcome to our presenters today. Secondly, I would like to greet and welcome all participants from Southeast Asia region and beyond. For this session, there are 5 speakers. They are Dr. Nur Zaida from SMP Negeri 8 Semarang, Central Java, Mr. Muhammad Said Marjuki from SMK Negeri 3 Kupang, East Nusa Tenggara, Mr. Arif Husein Lubis from Indonesia University of Education, Bandung, West Java, Mr. Abdul Rosyid and Miss Poppy Sofia Hidayati from Pakuan University, Bogor, West Java. Before we start the presentation, I would like to inform you that each speaker will have 15 minutes to present their papers. Then we'll be continue with the question and answer session. So, ladies and gentlemen, please type your question as well as your name, institution, and to whom the question is addressed on the chat box starting from the presentation session. And then we will select the question and display it during the Q&A session. So, without further ado, let me introduce our first speaker, Dr. Nur Zaida. Her love to education brought her to pursue her doctoral degree from Semarang State University in 2016. She also has written several books published by major publisher in Indonesia. Today, she will share her paper entitled Using YouTube Platform to Promote Student Autonomous Learning. Dr. Nur Zaida, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ibu Anissa. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So everybody, allow me to present my paper, and allow me first to share my PPT. So as has been mentioned by Ibu Anissa, that my topic is that the use of YouTube platform to promote the students' autonomous learning. And this happened or occurred in my school. So I'm going to share the experience. And I have to inform you first that the paper was written in the several months ago. So some change happened in my school, like the use of the platform. I mean the use of the mode or the platform for the learning process. In this paper, I mentioned using Edmodo, but now the school has come to the decision to use the Google Classroom as the platform. So I have to inform you first because there is some explanation that may be different from in the past and present. So things that need to be thought when we encourage our students to be autonomous is that this term or this idea has been introduced long time ago, but we can see that the our students or people around us are not very care about the how to be autonomous in learning, and students especially are still rely much on teachers' effort to make them understand concepts, and even much bigger to encourage the students to do their work or to apply the concept that they have learned into practice. And the COVID-19 pandemic has changed the condition that, like Pak Didi mentioned, that we have to adapt with the situation, meaning that we have to encourage or force our students to be autonomous, because we cannot meet them directly. But like Pak Didi also mentioned, that we as teachers cannot just leave the students, because we will design, facilitate, and assess the process. And why YouTube? Because I believe that all of you has known that YouTube is a platform that can be easily accessed by the users. And I have done small study, small research, that asking the students how many students use or access the YouTube, and I found out that most of them have accessed the YouTube, especially during the pandemic. And then the availability of the comment also under the videos that can be manipulated as the discussion forum as well as the portfolio. And then, as I have mentioned, that most students frequently access the YouTube, and it is so easy to use the channels. Everybody can reach the channel because their contents are also interesting. And the next one is that the method of the thing that I have done is that this is a best practice, so there is no cycle. And then descriptive qualitative approach employed in this study. And then there are 30 students of grade 8 in SMP Negeri 8, yeah, SMP Negeri 8. And then I did it during the second term from March to May 2020. And then the aim is to seek the best way in teaching and learning process under the recent circumstances, because during the March to May, we as teachers, especially I, still seek the best way how to teach the students in this pandemic. So the basic ideas of using the YouTube platform in the learning process is that the basic ideas are the teacher provided videos containing the materials related to the basic competencies that should be mastered by the students. And then, so I made the videos because I thought that students will be happy to see me, because especially for the 7th graders, we never meet. So they need to meet, they need to know, they need to see the teachers. And then all the materials provided by the teacher in the channel were mostly made, yeah, or compiled, okay. And then this way, I hope that the videos I have provided will suit the students' need and qualification, because probably my students will have different English mastery with other students from other schools, with although they have the same level. And then the materials exposed to the teacher's voice, too, meaning me. This just for the sake to make my student felt that I was there with them during the session. And then okay, so I divide the use of YouTube videos into kinds of usage. The first is that I created the learning materials, and then also exercises, a fun one. So it's kind of like a puzzle, or in short, to make the students interested in the videos. And then I distributed the URL to the students through, at that time, is Edmodo. or to the WhatsApp group. And then the student access the URL and then learn the session through the videos and web meet when necessary. I stated here when necessary because at that time there are if the meeting uh, through web were done frequently, some parents some parents feel that what is it? Yeah, some parents feel that they need more money to buy the data, but the situation is different now because the ministry has provided the parents and the students with the data, with the pulsa. So I think that it's different now. So we can have web meet more frequently. So I stated here web meet when necessary, meaning that when a lot of students text me asking about the lesson, so I know that that's the time to have the web meet. And then so this is the example of the YouTube, and then this is about the recount text because for the 8th graders. And then so that video is in my own channel and I made myself. And then the next one is that the student perform their skills related to the referred basic competence in Edmodo. So the students like writing or speaking based on the KD or the basic competence. And then the teacher, T here is teacher, access the Edmodo to check the student responses and then give feedback to the student responses. And now our school using the Google Classroom, but the stages is the same. And then the second one is that YouTube videos as the learning resources and portfolios. Here, teacher created the learning material based on the basic competence, the same that has been done in the previous way. And then teacher distributed the URL to the students through Edmodo or WhatsApp group. And then here is the example. And the students access the URL and learn the lesson through the video, web meet when needed. And then the students perform. Yes?
Could you please to wrap up your presentation? We have 3 more minutes.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. So the student perform their competence related to the lesson in the comment column under the description of the video. So this, instead of doing the work or the tasks in the Edmodo, the students will directly do that in the comment column like this. And then I will directly give the response under their response. And then here is the result. The result is quite satisfying, I think. Though some students find difficulties like having late in submitting their work, but it was still can be handled by the help of other teacher. And here is also the questionnaire I give to my students through the Google form at that time. And then yes, that's the answer. And some said that 30% students mentioned that they only not really understand the explanation given by the teacher in the videos you had watched. But still, I'm happy because they still know that they recognize that they don't understand, meaning that they can reflect, that they can do the reflection of the learning process. So this is what makes me happy is that what did you do when you find difficulties in understanding the lesson? They state consulting it with friends, reading related books, consulting with it with the teacher, meaning with me. They text me or they text their friends in the groups. And about the books, the school has provided books that taken home, so the students can also use the book as another resource. And here are the two thing suggestion. I'm really happy with the suggestion they gave. And then also, this is the sample of the students' work uploaded in the Edmodo. So this is the last part. So I think if we can design and facilitate and also assess the process well, carefully, we can use any platform, including here is YouTube, to promote the student autonomous learning, as well as to acquire the basic competence. Well, I think that's all, Ibu Moderator, my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ibu Dr. Nurzaida. From the presentation, we have learned that the use of YouTube platform in the lesson during the COVID-19 pandemic has strongly encouraged the student to be autonomous learners.
Thank you.
Now, let's head to our second speaker, Mr. Muhammad Said Marzuki. He has written several articles published in some journal and presenting his paper both in national and international conference. His research interests include language testing and evaluation, material development, and the use of ICT in English classroom. In 2018, he earned his master degree from Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia Bandung, majoring in English education. And in this symposium, he will present his paper which entitled Indonesian EFL Teachers' Beliefs and Practices in Fostering Learners' Autonomy. Without further ado, Mr. Said, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, the moderator. Well, welcome to my presentation. I'm Moch Said Marzuki from SMK Negeri 3 Kupang. Okay. Yeah, here's my PPT. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Today I'd like to present my paper entitled Indonesian EFL Teachers' Beliefs and Practices in Fostering Learner Autonomy. So here is the outline of my presentations today. It will cover the introduction, literature review, methodology, the result and discussion, and the last will be conclusion and recommendation. So we come to the first, the burning issue, the development of learner autonomy in the teaching and learning process plays as an important part, as it is demanded in the current curriculum in Indonesia, 2013 curriculum. Then it is also believed that the teacher's role plays as a crucial part in fostering learner autonomy in the teaching and learning process. Then it is also believed that learner autonomy can elevate the students to be more or to become higher order thinking skills as the main objectives of the current curriculum. However, in reality, the teachers still tend to conduct teacher-centered in their teaching process. So based on those circumstances, the present study was aimed at investigating EFL teacher perception and practices related to the development of learner autonomy. Then there are three research questions derived in this present study. The first one is, what is the EFL teacher's perception on the development of learner autonomy? And then what are the challenges encountered by the teachers? And the third is, what are the strategies conducted by EFL teachers to foster learner autonomy? So related to the definition of learner autonomy itself, Holleck in 1981 defined it as the ability to take charge of one's own learning. It means that how the student can manage and take responsibilities to their own learning. And then Nguyen in 2014 proposed three advantages in elevating learner autonomy in language education. The first is the students become actively involved in the decision-making process. And then the second is the students are responsible for their own learning process. And then the third is the students will be responsible to their community. Indeed, there are several constraints in fostering learner autonomy in education, particularly in Indonesian context. The first one is the commonly happen, that is teacher center. Teacher center, it's believed hampering the students to be autonomous, and then also teacher competencies in conducting various approaches and then various activities also become one of the main consideration to foster learner autonomy. And then the biggest challenge in Indonesia, that is the big number of students in each classroom, in average more than 25 students in each classroom. Then, as it has been described by Pak Didi, there are about three teacher roles in promoting learner autonomy. The first one is as facilitator, counselor, and resources. Facilitator here means that how the teachers support the student by providing them or by setting the learning objective, materials, and then evaluate the learning process. And then counselor here means how the teacher give advice to the student uh, to learn efficiently. And then resource here means that how the teachers provide information to the student if it is needed. So there are several previous studies have been conducted related to learner autonomy. The first one is Yuliani and Langkanawati in 2017. They found that project-based approach can elevate the students to be more autonomous. And then also in 2019, Khotima, Widyati, Mustafa, and Ubaidillah found that both teacher and students have positive perception related to learner autonomy. And then it's also found that the teachers employ more activities in their teaching and learning process to foster their students to be more autonomous. And then in 2019, Rahmadia and Langkanawati found that basically learner autonomy deal with how the student learn independently outside the classroom. Then in 2019, Zulia and Yusuf found that classroom activities and evaluating became the highest responsibilities of the teachers. However, student decision-making abilities to choose learning objective and evaluating became the lowest point. The present study employed mixed method as described by Hamid. It is a new approach aimed to put quantitative and qualitative data together. And then the participants of the present study were 50 EFL teachers in its Nusa Tenggara. And then 3 out of them were chosen purposefully to participate in the interview as the representation of their school, like from junior, senior, and then vocational schools. And then the present study employed two instruments, namely questionnaire and then interview. So related to the data analysis, the quantitative data uh, was analyzed by using descriptive statistic, and meanwhile the data gathered from the qualitative was analyzed by using the framework proposed by Miles and Huberman. So now we come to the research and discussion related to the first research question. What is the EFL teacher's perception on development of learner autonomy? The majority of the participants define it as the situation in which learners are totally responsible for their learning. And then it is also similar what have been found in the interview result. The majority of the participants define learner autonomy as the responsible for their that learner responsible for their learning both inside and outside the classroom. Sorry. And then the participant also emphasize that learner autonomy as the way how the learners manage and control their learning. So here these findings similar with what have been found by Holek in 1981 related to the definition of learner autonomy itself. And then from the interview itself, result itself, it is also found that learner autonomy mostly happen outside the classroom. So it is similar with what have been found by Ramadia and Langkanawati in 2019. They found that basically learner autonomy happen outside the classroom when the student learn independently. Then related to their teacher's perception of their own responsibilities, we can see that the teachers have positive perception related to their own responsibilities, both inside and outside the classroom. And then the participant decided what students should learn inside and outside the classroom, as well as how long they would spend to learn the topic. So it is in line what have been found by Yuzulia and Yusuf in 2019. They claim that teachers have high responsibilities in their classroom activities and evaluating the students' learning process. And so based on these findings, the present study proposed that although the teacher took role as facilitator in the teaching and learning process, the students still need guidance because as we know that our students are not totally 100% autonomous. So related to the second research question about the challenges encountered by the teachers, it found that the teacher's knowledge about learner autonomy became the main constraint to foster learner autonomy in their classroom. So it is also in line with the interview results. The participant emphasized that how teachers' knowledge and experience on learner autonomy hinder the development of learner autonomy in the classroom context. So it is similar with what had been found by Nguyen in 2014. She claimed that the lack of understanding of the teachers about learner autonomy itself will lead them to employ teacher-centered teaching. Then the interview result also found that the examination is one of the barriers in fostering learner autonomy because the students have to be able to read someone text, and then they have to answer the questions provided. So based on those findings for this second research question, the present studies suggest that the teacher should, should emphasize their role as facilitator during the teaching and learning process. So related to the last research question about the strategies conducted by EFL teachers to foster learner autonomy, the majority of the participants believe that training the teacher related to learner autonomy or how to implement learner autonomy in the classroom context become the main or become the most useful strategy to foster learner autonomy in the classroom context. And then also, how do the teacher conduct or engage the student to work cooperatively, both teacher and student in the classroom context become one of the strategies to foster learner autonomy in the classroom. So from the interview result, it is also found that the majority of the participants implemented several approaches to foster learner autonomy, like problem-based and project-based approach. So it is quite similar with what have been found by Yuliani and Langkanawati. They claim that the implementation of project-based approach can elevate the students to be more autonomous. And then the participant employed several activities to foster learner autonomy, both inside and outside the classroom, such as pair work, group work, and then presentations. And the participant, and then related to the development of ICT itself or internet, particularly internet, the participant asked the student to find out relevant resources that relevant to their topic from the internet, and then the student share it in their group work. So the present study proposed that the strategy to engage the students to work collaboratively is actually, it can be said that it is actually eliminating the dependency of the students to their teachers in the teaching and learning process. So as the conclusion and the recommendation, the EFL teachers perceive positive perception related to the development of learner autonomy in the classroom context. Then they believe that their responsibilities in teaching would affect the development of learner autonomy as demanded in the current curriculum. Then to foster the learner autonomy in the EFL classroom, the EFL teachers employed several approaches and activities. Indeed, it needs teacher background knowledge as well as their time management to cope the challenges during the implementation of learner autonomy in the classroom context. And then as the recommendation for further research needs to investigate gender-based perception and attitudes among Indonesian EFL teachers on learner autonomy. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zaid. From the presentation, we realized that EFL teachers in East Nusa Tenggara believe that their responsibilities in teaching will affect to the development of learners' autonomy as it is demanded in the curriculum of Indonesia. That's interesting. So, before we continue with the next speaker, I would like to remind the attendees who have questions to our presenter to type the question in the chat box by mentioning your name, your institution, and to whom the question is addressed. And also don't forget the question. Now, let's welcome our third speaker in this session, Mr. Arif Husein Lubis He is an English language lecturer at Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, and his teaching experience mostly focuses on English for non-IELTS major students. His research interests revolve around EFL teaching methodology, ICT integration in EFL classroom, and also English for academic purpose. Mr. Lubis will present his paper entitled EFL Teachers' Role to Foster Learner Autonomy, Ideals and Realities in Flipped Learning. Mr. Lubis, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much for the moderator, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to my presentation today, and let me share my screen first. Is it clear enough?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the title is about EFL teachers' roles to foster learner autonomy, ideals, and realities in flipped learning. And I would like to inform you that this is based on my experience in the last year, not in this year, so before the pandemic situation, and before I joined in Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, so different affiliation. Okay. So this is the background why I studied teachers' roles in flipped learning. As we know that the goal of education 2030 is to increase students' creativity, problem-solving skills, and responsibility. So these three skills are really important to create future-ready learners, as Prof. Didi has explained, to be active, responsible, aware, and engaged citizens. So that's why the learning approaches has transformed from individual to community integrated, from teacher-centered to student-centered, from manual to technology-based or enhanced. So that's why learner autonomy is believed to be one of the contributing factors to succeed the goal of education 2030, whether it is in the classroom environment or in online learning environment. However, the consistency of the student's autonomy is influenced by the four perspectives according to Borg and Al-Busaidi as well as Oxford. The first one, the technical perspective. This is related to the learning design, from the learning materials, learning tasks, what are the media and technologies used. And the second one, from the students themselves, how they perceive learner autonomy in the classroom and how they should behave in the classroom using learning styles and learning strategies. The third perspective that can influence autonomy is socio-cultural perspective. How is the relationship between the students and the teachers? And is there any interaction, collaboration, power relation, and so on and so forth? And it is highly related as well to political critical perspective. How much control from the teacher is exposed in the classroom, and how much control is exposed by the school rules, for example, and to what extent teacher-centeredness is exposed in the classroom. Above all this perspective, the four perspectives I believe that are still determined by the teacher's efficacy, especially the teacher's roles to maintain these perspectives so that the learner autonomy can be consistently maintained. That's why I chose this topic. If it is not properly actualized, there will be demotivation among the students to be autonomous learners. If it is properly actualized, the teacher's roles, there will be motivation to be autonomous learners. And if it is consistently maintained, there will be consistent autonomy, because learner autonomy is not inborn in the students and it is highly dynamic. And consistent autonomy is contributing to be or to create future-ready learners. So it goes back to the ultimate goal of education 2030. Okay, there have been some previous studies in secondary schools and higher education contexts. Basically, in secondary schools, not basically, generally, the teachers and students still believe that teachers' roles are important to develop, to foster the autonomy in the classroom. For example, through being a facilitator, manager, and evaluator. But what is interesting here is the study from Fatimah Widiati, Mustafa Nubaidillah. They found that the teachers still view that learner autonomy is related to the students' ability to learn English independently without teachers' assistance. So it is quite contrasting with the concept of learner autonomy itself. And it is also interesting from Cherokee, Anam, and Ritaran India, the students feel that the teachers still didn't put much efforts to involve them in the assessment and interaction session. How about in higher education? Still the same, although the roles of technologies are now contributing, getting more contributing to foster learner autonomy, they still believe that teachers' support, teachers' assistance, teachers' guidance can help the learners to be autonomous in the classroom or outside the classroom. However, although teachers' roles have been quite extensively examined, especially in the context of technology-enhanced language learning, it is quite rare in the context of flipped learning and in the context of higher education. So I would like to explore this one. This is the research question. To what extent the teacher's roles influence the students' autonomy? And the second one, how do the students expect me? What are the ideal teacher's roles in fostering learner autonomy? From the student's perspective only, not from my perspectives. And the third one is, to what extent the teacher's real practices conform to the student's expectation, whether the ideals, whether the realities conform to the ideals. This is the design of my present study. I use descriptive qualitative study involving 94 first-year undergraduate EFL students. They are not English language education in major. The major is not ALT, information technology. I use flipped learning, and it is the first time for them to experience flipped learning. I use 20-item questionnaire. There are close-ended, Likert scale, and checkboxes. And I focus on the 16 roles. I collected the 16 roles from many resources. And I also provided in the questionnaire another checkbox so that they can fill in another role that they want to. I provide extra box. And this is the data analysis process for the validity and reliability. And the context is in grammar, in basic English grammar class. This is the teaching process, the flipped learning. So in the pre-class session, as we know that flipped learning is conceptualized as the process of inverting the learning process, where the content delivery, the monologue teaching is done outside the classroom. And in the classroom, they only have to do with the individual or group works and clarification. So the content delivery is not done in the classroom anymore. So in the pre-class session, I encourage them to enrich themselves individually, not only from my resources, but also from other resources. And this is the main platform that we use at the time, Moodle. We use Moodle as the LMS. The Moodle is provided by the campus. And in class session, they have role-driven group discussion, Q&A session, and individual assignment. For example, to analyze some text, analyzing the grammar in the text. And after class session, I encourage them to wrap up the discussion, wrap up the materials, and also do self-empty reflection. How is to know the progress, to know their weaknesses, to know their strengths, and what are the strategies to deal with the constraints and challenges. So this is the result of the first research question. To what extent the teacher's role influence the student's autonomy? Generally, the results show that it's quite positive here from the student's perspective. As you can see in the initiating process, it's the mean score is 3.8, whether it is in class session or outside the class session. So they believe that in the initiating process, monitoring process, and evaluating process, teachers' roles influence the students' autonomy in flipped learning contexts. The second research question, the results for the second research question, what are the ideal teachers' roles, whether it is outside the classroom or inside the classroom? So outside the classroom, among the 16 roles that I gave to the students, they believe that these are the top 5 roles that should be possessed, maybe I can say possessed by the teachers. They expect me to be a knowledge transmitter, techno-literate person, motivator, technology trainer, and learning mood booster. Okay, and how about in the classroom? These are the top 5 roles that they expect to me. What is interesting, there are 2 interesting results here. Whether it is outside or inside the classroom, they still expect me to be knowledge transmitter. That's the first one here. So they expect me to be the one who can transfer the knowledge clearly, and they expect me to be motivator and learning mood booster. So the one who can boost up their learning mood. And it is quite common, yeah, for the students to expect to me. And the second interesting result is there is a difference, yeah, between the in-class and outside class. The difference lies on the character educator and classroom manager. They don't expect me to be character educator and classroom manager outside the classroom yet. I believe that this is because of the learning environment. Online learning environment is not like in the classroom. They believe that I don't need to be classroom manager because the classroom is the internet. Okay, so the classroom is the learning management system. I'm not there. Yeah, I'm not there with them. So they more expect me to be a techno-literate person who that can be a counselor when they have difficulty in using the technology. Yeah? And this is the result of the third research question. To what extent the teacher's real practices conform to the expectation? So the blue bar chart is the ideals, the expectations that I have explained before. And the yellow bar chart is the realities, the real practices in the classroom. Generally, they believe that the 16 roles have been exemplified by me. I have exemplified these 16 roles, but not quite significantly, because no roles obtain 100%. The second one is more students believe that I have exemplified the roles of being knowledge transmitter and feedback provider, the one who can provide feedback to the students' works, and all-knowing person. And then the last but not least is techno-literate person. So more students believe that I have exemplified these roles. How about in the online learning environment? So this one is in the classroom, yeah, in the face-to-face learning environment. And this is in the online learning environment outside the classroom. Generally, it's the same, yeah, the result is quite the same. The 16 roles, they believe that I have exemplified the 16 roles outside the classroom. The second result is that more students also believe that I have exemplified the role of knowledge transmitter, the one who can transfer the knowledge clearly, and the one who can educate or instill good characters here. So they believe that I have exemplified character educator role outside the classroom. Okay, So what are the lessons learned from the results, from the results of the 3 research questions? I go back to the theory of 4 perspectives that can influence learner autonomy. The technical perspective, psychological perspective, socio-cultural perspective, and political critical perspective. And I put the teacher's roles in the middle of them. Why? Because I believe that teachers' roles are still vital, and it is fundamental within formal education. I highlight the formal education context here. Why? There are 3 reasons why I argue that teachers' roles are still vital, whether it is in technology enhanced or not technology enhanced classroom. The first one is the learners are not involved in the process of formulating the syllabus, right? They are not involved in formulating the curriculum. They are not involved in formulating the lesson plans, for example. So they just, like it or not, they just accept it. Yeah, I can say that. And so they have to deal with our learning design. So we are, as the teachers, the main learning designer. And the second one is, this is technology enhanced language classroom. So it means that I have employed several technologies in the classroom, right? Like learning management system using Moodle, WhatsApp, and so on and so forth. So especially I want to highlight the educational technology. Why? Because the students do not use educational technology for their daily basis, right? They only use WhatsApp, they only use Instagram, TikTok, and so on and so forth. Yes.
Lubis, you have just 2 more minutes. Can you
Okay, thank you, the moderator.
presentation?
So we need to train the learner in the very beginning of the course. Yeah? So I provided learner training in the first session of my course to operate the LMS, to operate the Moodle, how they deal with the technology, how they deal with the autonomous learning, whether they have understood the concept of learner autonomy, what should they do during the 16th week. Yeah. So I encourage them and provide demonstration as suggested by Prof. Didi previously. And it is not enough, I think, to provide learner training. We need to be there during the whole course. We need to give consistent guidance and feedback. But we don't spoon feed them yet. So it will enhance them to maintain their motivation to be autonomous learners in flipped learning. So concluding remarks, I want to highlight 2 points here. Learner autonomy is not inborn. Once again, they are not born to be autonomous learners, and learner autonomy is dynamic in formal education. It can be up, it can be down. So we need to make sure that we are there for them. Consistent guidance and feedback from the teachers are still vital to maintain their motivation in learning English as well as in using the technology autonomously, especially in the flipped learning context. And the last but not least is, I believe that students' attributes, for example, like personality, age, learning strategies, can influence their preferences of how the teacher should be in the classroom or outside the classroom. So it is quite interesting, I think, to investigate more on teachers' roles, whether students' attributes can influence the students' preferences of what they expect to the teachers, inside or outside the classroom. So thank you very much for your kindest attention, and this is the end of my presentation. I would be very happy to welcome any questions, comments, and critics. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Mr. Arif Husein Lubis. That's interesting. We realized that an all-knowing person motivator, learning mood booster, and also character educator as the top four ideal EFL teachers' role in fostering student autonomy. So, before we continue with the next speaker, don't forget to type the question in the chat box by mentioning your name, institution, and also to whom the question is addressed. Now, let's welcome our last speakers, Mr. Abdul Rosyid and Miss Poppy Sofia Hidayati. Mr. Rosyid and Miss Poppy are lecturers in English Education Study Program, Faculty of Teacher Training and Educational Science, Pakuan University in Bogor. When Mr. Rosyid is interested in English pronunciation, phonetic and phonology, foreign language acquisition and technology in language learning, Miss Poppy is interested in extensive reading and English literature. And in this session, they will present their paper entitled Teaching Pronunciation Through MOL, Mobile Assisted Language Learning, Promoting EFL Learners' Pronunciation and Their Learning Autonomy. So, Mr. Rosyid and Miss Poppy, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Good day, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Me and Pak Rosyid did the research together. So here is our research titled Teaching Pronunciation Through MOL, Mobile Assisted Language Learning, Promoting EFL Learners' Pronunciation and Their Learning Autonomy. Okay, we will start with the screen. Okay, so this is the outline of our presentation. First is background, methods, and result, and conclusion. As for background, this is about pronunciation. Pronunciation is one of the important skills to learn in English language teaching as the second or foreign language. Why? Because when people have difficulty understanding another person simply due to the pronunciation, it can cause frustration on the part of speaker and listener and potentially cause misunderstanding or other unintended consequences. Additionally, if a listener has to expend a great amount of energy focusing on understanding specifically what is said, then it will be more difficult to hone in on the message. So as for 2004, said that the successful of spoken communication is determined not only by the use of correct grammar or appropriate vocabularies, but also by the linking of segmental and suprasegmental features of pronunciation. Ironically, although English language is one of the subjects in Indonesia, which is given to students of junior and senior high school, some of them still have difficulties to pronounce English words correctly. The most significant problems is in producing not only segmental phoneme, but also suprasegmental phoneme. Considering this major function of pronunciation in communication, giving extra attention in teaching pronunciation is completely required. Teachers should consider appropriate teaching activities or teaching media that can meet the need. And there are a variety of strategies teachers can use to help students to learn to pronounce and practice new language or new words. And talking about technology that keeps enhanced nowadays, not only will support teaching and learning process, but also in some ways will promote autonomous learning. In this current pandemic situation, it is completely important to help our student to become an independent or an autonomous learner. So here we go with our research to choose the appropriate teaching activities and teaching media as a strategy to promote learner pronunciation and their learning autonomy. How? By applying MAL or Mobile Assisted Language Learning. As O'Malley in Pillar said that mobile assisted language learning is defined as any sort of learning that happens when the learner is not in a fixed predetermined location, or learning that happens when the learner takes advantage of the learning opportunities offered by mobile technologies. Furthermore, Kim and Kwan have classified application services for more. They are mobile social networking, mobile podcasting, course management service, and automatic speech recognition. In this study, we use ELSA Speak application for the automatic speech recognition. Mobile service networking use is YouTube, and course management service use is the LMS, Model e-learning Universitas Pakuan, the site of this research. Now we start with ELSA. What is ELSA? ELSA Speak application. ELSA, English Language Speech Assistant. It is one of artificial intelligence-based mobile application developed by ELSA Corp in Android platform since 2015, and in iOS it is since 2016. And there are three main exercises in this ELSA application. It is pronunciation, intonation, and conversation. The user of this application will get many exposure in the area of segmental and suprasegmental phonemes of English pronunciation. Fortunately, the best feature to support the exercises is the feedback given directly dealing with the user pronunciation. The feedback from ELSA is in the form of the level of native like, the tips and tricks given to user regarding the way to pronounce English sound, and example given by native English on how to produce sounds correctly when the user make a mistake in pronouncing certain English sounds. And as for the mobile social networking and course management service, here the teacher also uploaded the material to e-learning platform or Universitas Pakuan LMS. The uploaded materials are in the form of video taken from YouTube about how to pronounce each consonant sound, how to apply intonation in a sentence, and how to put a correct stress pattern in pronouncing words and sentences. As an additional exposure for the student, the teacher also uploaded some exercise to the e-learning platform. And the exercise were in the form of analyzing sound based on the words that the student could listen from the recording. Then for the method, how exactly we did the research, my partner, Pa Abdul Rosyid, will continue the explanation.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bu Poppy, for the time. Okay, in this very kind of opportunity, I would like to tell all the audiences what we actually did in conducting this research. We applied what is it called as classroom action research. We conducted two different cycle processes. In those two cycles, we started everything by giving the pre-test, and then conducting a planning, and then acting and observing and giving a post-test, and so on and so forth. Also, to get more data dealing with our own research questions, we also administered autonomous learning questionnaire. There are 5 indicators consisting 23 closed statements, 23 closed statements adopted from Galton 2015. And again, to make sure and to validate the data that we have already gathered from 2 different processes, we also conducted FGD, focus group discussion. We involved all parties, all students, and also involved all observers. We talked about how MOL or mobile assisted language learning promote their autonomous learning and also decrease the students' problems. Okay, and then here we go with the result. Okay, as I told you before, that the basic research methodology that we applied is classroom action research. So of course, in classroom action research, we gave a pre-test and 2 different post-tests. But what I'm going to show you is how does MOL decrease students' pronunciation problem. Okay, at the first cycle, there are 28 students have a problem with consonants, and then there are 4 students have troubles with vowels, and there are 16 students have trouble with diphthongs. There are 18 students have trouble with stress, linking sound, and intonation. As Bu Poppy has already told you that the main focus of analyzing the data through pre-test and post-test is not solely about knowing the students' improvement dealing with their pronunciation, but the main focus is dealing with knowing how the student's problem in pronunciation decrease after having 2 different treatments. Okay, at the first cycle, we actually gave the students with 2 different types of MOL. The first one, we assigned our students to use Elsa Speak app, Elsa app. Okay, we assigned the students to do a practice with Elsa, starting from practicing the vowel and the consonants and so on and so forth. We also assign our students to check the dictionary to make sure that the level of their pronunciation. Besides, we also provided a video, okay, things that makes this different with the previous research. Okay, the previous research also focused on the YouTube. Things that makes it different. We actually didn't provide YouTube made by ourselves, but we tried to find appropriate video completed by the subtitle, English subtitle. So we provided the video and we sent the video to the students. Okay, we assigned our students to choose that, not to choose. We actually selected the words taken from the YouTube, and we assigned the students to cross-check the word by using the dictionary provided in ELSA. But here is the result of the first cycle. At the second cycle, we tried different things. Okay, at the very first time, we actually provided some information in ELSA, and we managed the time for the students to practice by using ELSA. But at the second cycle, we gave our students a freedom to access ELSA whenever they like. Okay, and they also can choose the topic whatever they like, and also dealing with the YouTube or video taken from YouTube, we actually gave them a freedom to choose the video by themselves. But the most important thing that my students need to concern is they have to find out the video that related with the sounds that they wanted to develop. Okay, so that is the result. Okay, and at the second cycle, we also provided some materials uploaded in e-learning platform. Okay, and this is one of the examples of problems, okay, taken from students' pronunciation. The first one is consonant sounds, the in reversed, the in 30th, the in there, sh in sugar, and so on and so forth. Okay, for example, is the in reversed. Okay, some students find difficulties to pronounce the sound the in reverse. They tend to change the into p, because then the word sounds like reversed instead of reverse. It also happened in 30th. Okay, the students tend to change the th sound into t. Okay, this problem happens since some sounds in English do not exist in our Indonesian language. Okay, another problem is in vowel sound. This is only one of the example in at. For examples in the word added, the students tend to change that sound with the sound at, like in mereka. In diphthong sounds, a in the last syllable of communicate. In fact, the pronunciation of this word becomes communicate, not communicate. Okay, so the students then get difficulties in pronouncing diphthong sounds a. Also, sound o in control. Okay, the students tend to change the sound o to be o. So, like in bottle, so the pronunciation becomes control instead of control. Okay, so the second result in terms of the questionnaire, to what extent does MOL promote autonomous learning? As I told you before, there are 5 indicators that becomes our concern in measuring students' autonomous learning, starting from evaluation of teachers' aim, and also finishing with evaluation of pronunciation learning process. Seeing this, most of the students are actually in positive side. Most of them are in agree position with some statements, close statements taken from indicators. Here is the examples of the statement. Saya berusaha untuk menyelesaikan masalah emosional seperti rasa malu, bla bla bla, sampai terakhir saya menggunakan sumber-sumber baik online ataupun offline untuk meningkatkan kemampuan pronunciation saya. Okay, and these are in a positive side. Okay, and then the next one, okay, the next one is the result of a focus group discussion. It also used to know the students' feeling or the students' opinion dealing with the application of MOL toward their autonomous learning. The use of ELSA application in learning English really helps me to develop my pronunciation ability. Since I learned pronunciation using ELSA Speak application and supported by videos taken from YouTube, I always try to check how to pronounce words I find from books or lyrics of the songs, okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, learning pronunciation using application and videos that can be accessed through mobile phones. Learning pronunciation using mobile phones, can spend my spare time by doing positive activity. Okay, it implies that, okay, MOL that have the characteristic of mobility of technology, mobility of learning, and mobility of learner can become the mediating role for students to decrease their pronunciation problems and to promote their autonomous learning. As a conclusion, okay, mobile-assisted language learning can promote students' pronunciation and also their learning autonomy, and the whole process of MOL helps the students to be independent and to be able to overcome their pronunciation problems. Okay, this is the examples of ELSA Speak application. There are some features. The first one is the skill, so the students can choose the skills by themselves. Okay, the skills consisted the lesson, okay, basic terms, listening, teaser, and also there are the topic. In this topic, there are some conversation or some words related with the topic, and in each conversation, it focuses on a certain sound. And the most interesting thing is about the dictionary. The students actually can type what kind of word that they want to know how it is pronounced. And after that, they can check or they can imitate the pronunciation. And after that, they will get the score at what level of their pronunciation native like. Okay, and the following is the example of material that we uploaded in LMS. Okay, for example, so the topic 5 consonant sounds part 2. We actually provided some videos taken from YouTube about how to pronounce consonant sounds. Since at the very first cycle, we still found out some problems occurred, some problems faced by the students in certain sounds of English. Okay, and also we provided some examples.
Sorry, Mr.
Yes.
Mr.
The time is up.
Rosyid, yes.
Yes, huh?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. This is the last. This is the last one. This is the examples of activities. Another activities uploaded in LMS. We provided some exercises, so we assigned the students to to analyze appropriate sound based on the recording. Okay. It is supposed to be noted that I write entirely by ear and read everything aloud before I letting it go out into the world. So everything started from what we hear, and everything started it with what we say. Okay, William Zinser, and thank you very much. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Rosyid and Miss Poppy. From the presentation, we realized that ELSA effective to help the student encounter their pronunciation problem and to promote their learning autonomy as well. Thank you so much for the information. And all right, ladies and gentlemen, we will now heading to the question and answer session. We have collected so far 5 questions for our speakers, but I'm afraid that we do not have enough time to answer all those questions, and we will try to discuss about the first question. The first question is the first question is addressed to Dr. Nurzaida. And the question is, what were the challenges you faced when you applied this activity during learning? If there are any, how did you solve them? Ibu Zaida, I invite you to comment on it.
Thank you, Ibu. Can I share one slide only a minute to answer the questions? Is it possible? Yes. Okay.
Yes,
thank you.
please.
Okay. Here. Okay. Have you seen my? Not yet. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So here is the. Thank you for the question, Ibu Sinta from UPI. Yeah. I believe that now all of you can see my slide. So the question is that what is there any problem? Yes, it is. Yes, there are some. Yeah, and one of them is that the plagiarism. So this is the a screenshot of my conversation through the Google Classroom with my students about the plagiarism happened in the class. In this case is after watching the video. Yeah, your work is exactly the same with somebody. Yeah, how come? And then he answered. Can you see it clearly? Yes. Okay. So he responded that, and then I give suggestion what he should do for next time. So Ibu Sinta, the major problem from the student side is that the first is the plagiarism, and then how to solve the problem. Okay, first the use of YouTube is suggested by the principal of my school and most principals in Semarang area, because I don't know in other area, because maybe due to geographical condition, the students are not able to access the internet. But in Semarang, the internet is quite good. The connection is quite good, and YouTube is uploading videos through YouTube is suggested because YouTube using the very low bandwidth, so it is it will not consume a lot of data, so it is suggested, and that's why there is no reason the students cannot access. but the problem is plagiarism and how to solve it. So here the students did not watch the video, but they can give response to the questions. Okay, so how to solve the problem? First is that copy. I mean, they work on one of the ways is that they work on a notebook, and then they screen shoot it, and then they upload it in the LMS. In this case, is KCR. And then another way is that we can set the KCR, the LMS, so that every student can see other works. Of course, this is to guarantee that somebody's work, like in this case is William, my student's name William, will not give, or his work will not be duplicated by others, so they can see each other. And if one of them do the duplication, other students can correct directly, like your work, you're using somebody else's work. So that's the way to solve the problem. One of the ways to solve the problem, Ibu Sinta, I think. Yeah, thank you for the question.
Thank you very much, Ibu Nur Zaida. Can you please stop the share screen?
Sure.
Okay. We have time maybe for just 2 minutes, and we are heading to the second question. Okay. The second question, please. Okay, the second question, that is the last question, and the question is addressed to Mr. Muhammad Said Marzuki. And you mentioned it earlier in the finding that examination can be a hindrance to student learning autonomy. I would like to hear your opinion about it. What does the finding implicate? Does it mean we should limit anything that has to do with testing students? Then what should we do to remain true to our goal that is fostering student autonomy, while at the same time we are able to see the student progress? Please, Mr. Marzuki, I invite you to comment on it.
Yes.
But I'm sorry that we do not have so many time. Maybe just 1 or 2 minutes.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the questions. I think it will impact to the teaching and learning process and also the development of learner autonomy itself, because the teacher, because it lead the teacher to do what we have known as the negative washback effect of testing itself. So the teaching process will be focusing on how the teacher teach the students about the tips and the tricks to pass the testing itself. But I think so. And then as the result, I think it would be better for the teacher itself to promote what we have known as the authentic assessment. So we can ask the students to do several types of authentic assessment, and then indeed they will, and then we can like allow them to work collaboratively, so they will reduce their dependency to the teachers in their teaching and learning process. I think it is from my point of view, Bu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marzuki. So that's it. Now is 11. Okay, good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this session. I would like to thank our speaker for today. Also, thank you very much for the attendees for joining us in this session. Now, we will proceed into closing ceremony. Please leave this breakout room and join the main room session, and the closing ceremony will be led by the master of ceremony. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Most welcome.